It is well with my soul is a hymn penned by hymnist Horatio Spafford and composed by Philip Bliss. It was first published in 1876. The hymn was written after several traumatic events in Spafford's life. The first two were the death of his 4-year-old son. The second was the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, which ruined him financially. He'd been a pretty successful lawyer and had invested significantly in property around the Chicago area, and that property was damaged by the fire. His business interests were further hit by the economic downturn of 1873, at which time he had planned to travel to Europe with his family. In a late change of plans, he sent the family ahead while he was delayed on business concerning zoning problems with the Chicago fire. While crossing the Atlantic Ocean, the ship sank rapidly after a collision with a sea vessel, and all 4 of Spafford's daughters tragically died. His wife Anna survived and sent him the now famous telegram, "Saved alone." Shortly afterward, as Spafford traveled to meet his grieving wife, he was inspired to write these words while his ship passed near where his daughters had died. These original lyrics: "When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like a sea billow roll. Whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to know. It is well with my soul." Humbling, right? Crazy. I'd never heard this backstory before. Could you imagine? I mean, the situation that he was in, the circumstances he was facing, losing your son, losing your investments, and then losing your 4 daughters. And then on passing through the area where your children died, to somehow find your way to these words: "It is well with my soul." Hard to imagine. What's your instinctive response when you're hit with bad news? Or when you're stressed out or devastated by how things have turned out? Obviously, there was some time between when Spafford first learned of the tragedy and the time he sailed through the area where it happened. But still, it's hard to even comprehend how he could find his way to those words. How could he find acceptance of his circumstances and his lot? He was a hymn writer, so clearly he was a man of great faith. But still, I mean, think of people in the Bible like Moses, who was tapped by God to go and talk to Pharaoh, and he wasn't sure he was up to the task. He said, I don't know that I can do it. Or Job, who spent, the majority of the book of Job questioning God, complaining, frustrated, angry, lamenting why he should have to go through such misery. Heck, even Jesus himself, when he was faced with the cross, said, "God, find another way. Can't this cup pass from me?" Of course, the very next thing that Jesus prayed was, "Your will is more important than what I want. Your will be done, not mine." Sure, we can trust God and give thanks when things are going well, when they're going in a way that we like. But can we also trust God in times of loss? In times when things are not so comfortable? Times of sadness? Times of grief? Even times when we can't really understand why things are happening the way they are, when they don't make sense to us. Can we take a breath and see a bigger picture? One where God, as God promises, will see us through that dark valley, restore our soul, and where we can remember that our cup will run over. Can we be like Joseph and have that faith when his brothers sold him into slavery and then he was thrown in prison wrongfully accused, and somehow he was still trusting? He still had faith that God would see him through that. Or St. Paul, who was in prison for telling people about Jesus. And what did he do while he was in prison? He sang hymns of praise in prison until God sent an earthquake to knock the walls down and set him free. I have little doubt that every single one of us could identify things right now in our lives that we wish were different. Things that are stressing us out, things that we lost, maybe even things that we're in the process of losing. I don't know. We have legitimate reason to be irritable and heartbroken, just as Spafford certainly did. And as people of faith, we are promised that death does not have the last word. Yeah, there are tombs, as it were, but Jesus stands with us just like he did with Mary and Martha at their brother Lazarus' tomb. He cried with them. And then he spoke, and by the grace of God, life and hope came forth. Life had the last word, because in God it always does. They will for us too. In times of peace, in times of sorrow, may God be with you. And may you share in Spafford's beautiful and profound words, "It is well with my soul." God's blessings.